No, non lo dico.
And this is the place where normally things happen in Valencia, like celebrations, also a lot of protests. Anything that goes on in the city happens here. And also you have another nice building with the mini iPhone tower in the center. That's the central post office. And then one of the 3 train stations of Valencia is at the end of the road. This yellow building is the only train station in Valencia that is a national monument. Very, very spectacular. And many of the offices, so nobody lives in the area. It's all offices. They were actually built as offices from the very beginning. Mostly 1920s, early 20th century, that's the time of these buildings, yes? And this is the end of Central Valencia. Central Valencia is more that way. This is the end of it. Now we're gonna enter the old city. And we're gonna visit the market area and the cathedral area. Yes? So here we go, down the road. Okay, so this is Market Square, and the Market Square refers to a place that for more than 1,000 years it was actually the biggest square of the city, and it was a big space right in the heart of the old quarter where market was there. It was a street market. So this was described as being the filthiest place on earth. It was an open sewer in the middle, and the dirty water, a lot of rats, and it was really horrible. And people would buy food in here. This was the only place that had permission by the government to have a market. And the government tried to improve the life of this area by, for example, closing down the open sewer. Also, they made this building finished in 1911. And it's a really great building. It's the biggest market in Valencia, one of the biggest markets in Europe. And it's got 900 shops inside. It's really massive. It's a national monument as well. And for example, you see the Cathedral right on the top. That's a symbol of the market because these birds are very noisy and the market is a very noisy place. And basically the area used to be very full. Now things have changed. But this was the poorest part of the city. Normally market areas in every city were the same thing. These were the poorest parts of cities actually, where people lived, you know, one on top of the other, very skinny buildings everywhere, and a lot of chaos, open field, you know, in most of the area. So it would have been a very dirty place. But now, in the last decade, things have changed. It's become a trendy area and a very desirable place to live. But the prices, of course, have gone up. Many of the buildings have been abandoned because some of the skinny buildings, you can't do nothing with them. Law protects these houses, so you can't really change them. So that's a problem because you don't want to buy a very skinny building with many floors. You see a lot of them in the old city. In fact, I'm going to show you what is the narrowest facade of any building in Spain in a few months. Yes, well, that's a market square with this building. Now the square doesn't exist anymore because it's occupied by this giant building, but that was traditionally market square. We're going to take this road on the right, and we're going to see the old fish market.
No, él tiene mochilas.
Well, now the area is really quiet. It's sort of like a waking now. By 11, 12, be full of people, full of shops, everything will be open. Now it's really quiet. Early hours in the morning, especially August, it's really quiet, yes? Well, the architecture, if you turn your backs, for example, you can see typical buildings of the market area that you see in London, you see in Amsterdam, you see in Bruges, in Florence. Market areas show very skinny buildings everywhere. This was because of the tax. People would pay tax based on the frontage and the number of windows. That's how people pay tax. Of course, in a poor area like this one, you're gonna find a lot of skinny buildings everywhere, more than in any other part of the city. And in here we have the narrowest facade of any building in Spain. Have you noticed it? Something there, yes? Yeah. It's called, underneath it says La Estrecha, which means the narrow in Spanish, yes? If you come a little bit closer, it shows you the facade. It's just over a meter.
No, it's a house.
If you stretch your hands, you can actually touch 3 buildings at the same time. Have you ever seen a building as skinny as that? This is a really famous building actually. One of the most famous buildings in the city. It's a pity because there are many other nice buildings. That's kind of like a boring building, but it's very interesting. Then here you have a church. That's one of the oldest churches in Valencia, St. Catherine. And many of the churches in Valencia were built with recycling elements of mosques, because before the 13th century, Valencia was Muslim, and everyone spoke Arabic here. 13th century, it was a big change because Christians conquered the city, and every single mosque was transformed into a church. And same thing as the south of Spain and part of the center of the country. So Valencia was the middle of the 13th century when this became a Christian territory. Before that, it was just Muslim. Well, I'm going to show you one of the most traditional parts of the city, old fish market. Don't worry, it's not smelly, it's not fish anymore. It hasn't been fished here since 1911. So long ago, the fish section was actually moved into the central market, the building we've seen before. Now the area is like a market. You're going to see it. It's actually very pretty, and it's called the Round Square. This is one of the most traditional parts of the old city, the Round Square. And up to 20 years ago, it looked really horrible. It was all abandoned. And it was a pity because this is a national monument. It's all listed, but all buildings were abandoned. And they did a wonderful restoration. They built those shops, which used to be here before, but in a very old-fashioned way. And they built modern shops. Now they must be closed, and they sell mostly lace. You see all these lace shops? That's what it is, this market, a lace market. But shops, maybe they get closed because of holidays. Everyone takes holidays in August, regardless if it's the high season or not, nobody cares, they take holidays. But if you come any other moment, all the shops are open, and it's just lace, it's a lace market. And the buildings are the original buildings when this was the fish market. They haven't been replaced or rebuilt, the same houses. Because it's listed one, which means you have to keep the inside and the outside as well. So you can't really change anything. So they have to restore house by house, built in the 1700s, these buildings actually, and this was the worst part of the city because it was a fish market. So imagine smelling fish here back in the old days. It would have been horrible, revolting actually, smelling fish in this very same square. We're around 3 miles away over 3 miles away from the sea. So they had to bring all this fish from the sea into the heart of the water, and this was the place where they used to sell it. Imagine what a journey, coming from the sea in big boats, coming through the river, and then once they got to the river, to the edge of the old city, they had to bring it here with carriages and then sell it here. So it would have been certainly really horrible to be here in this place. Well, now we're going to the cathedral, yes, time with time.
Ben, come on, you're waiting. You are now. How hard is it to wait? How hard is it?
everyone is moaning. Up to this year, everyone was saying, oh, the square is horrible, there's no roof, you know, it's so hard. The government put these like steam machines this year, and now everybody's like, oh, it's making a mess of the floor. Everybody knows about everything in Valencia, city of moaners. Well, this is the Plaza de la Reina, Queen Square. It's all been redone after COVID because it was a little bit scruffy looking before, and they spent a fortune making this square, which I think is very nice and signifies different people. The building that you have at the end of the square, and the tallest point in the plaza is the bell tower. Right on top, you have a very interesting view. You see the whole Valencia, and Valencia is really flat, and it's all surrounded by mountains, so you can see it really long distance from the bell tower. It doesn't seem that high, but because there's nothing, miles away, there's nothing as tall as the bell tower, you have a great view. Probably is the lift, it doesn't exist. So you have to go up the stairs, 207 steps, which is a really huge effort, but the reward is the view, it's really impressive. The cathedral is one of the oldest cathedrals in the country, and 50% of the building, more or less, dates back to the 13th century, and uses materials and boards from the old mosque. So it's very catchy, very strange looking building. And then the other 50% dates back to different centuries. So it starts in one century and finishes in a different one, completely different one. So it's a real mix of styles. So, but it's interesting. It's got 3 different doorways, each one belongs to different styles. And we're gonna walk around the building, so you're gonna see the whole building. And then behind the cathedral, we have the most beautiful square of Valencia. You see, in Valencia we have many squares. And we love it because life is always outdoors in Valencia. Maybe in summer not so much, but the rest of the year for us is life is always outdoors. You eat, you have dinner, you have coffee, you have friends, always outside because the weather is very nice. In winter, you can actually be like this in the afternoon. Very nice. Not in the night, but in the afternoon is very special. Have anyone been in Valencia in winter? No, you should really come. Very nice. Especially February is my favorite month of the year because you know there are a lot of festivals, a lot of things going on in Valencia, and the temperature is always over 20 degrees in the afternoon. So by 11 o'clock until 5 is the perfect time to be out. Very nice. So let's go across the square. We're going to walk around the building. You get a nice view if you turn your back. You know, with the bell tower, those buildings in the back, it's quite pretty. I have to say that Valencia was very damaged in the war. We lost more than 2,000 buildings in central Valencia. That was the Spanish Civil War. So you get to see a lot of big mix of modern and old together. For example, the square. Half the buildings they're not really old. Like this one is from Franco, or the other one is modern. So you see a lot of mixing in the old city because Valencia was we lost 2,000 buildings in central Valencia. Here you have a model of the city. So this is actually for the blind. So they can touch the building, they can read in braille the history of the building. And also you kind of like see what it looks like, because when you go around the building, you don't really have any idea what the building looks like. It's really kind of like strange everything really. So basically the old church from the 13th century is in the center, and it's surrounded by buildings from different times. We're attaching buildings one after the other. It looks very, very strange, but it's very interesting. So if you ever get back to Valencia one day, you should maybe go inside, and especially don't miss going up to the top. I know it's a big effort, but you will appreciate the view. So let's keep walking around the building. I thought they had this time. There's like, oh, this roof is thin. You can't be out underneath the roof. My hand is 10 years ago. That has been just oh, sorry. And asking. Protagonism of the church, not in the main building of four square. You build a lot of things around, it's always practical. So it has to be emotionally like simple and not too long and hard. I mean, you can like it less and more. She's very bad. Is that a big if I can do that? I like that. It's not long until we are in the past, yes, not very long now. And well, we're still looking at the same building. It doesn't look like the same building, but you see how every section belongs to a different period. This one is a very strange looking doorway, very unusual. It looks very Arabesque, very Arabic looking, but it was built by Christians in the 13th century. But it looks very unusual. And then opposite you have the palace of the Archbishop. He's the head of the church in the eastern part of the country. That's his palace, yes. And also, well, we're actually going to continue walking, and then on the back of the cathedral is where you get Virgin Square, which is the nicest one in the city. Yes? If anybody wants to ask a question, please feel free to ask or say anything. Oh, she's a witch. Well, the old gargoyles, and they were actually used to expel water and evil spirits from the buildings. And then usually you find all the witches from 1906. It's a very beautiful apartment block, And unfortunately, it's the only building that survived the war. All the other buildings, that one survived. Now belongs to the local council and is the tourist board. It's going through a restoration, of course, but it's a very pretty building. It's from 1906. You can see the date on the top. I'm sorry? There's the bishop, San Valero. So it's a bishop from Valencia who became a saint.
Oh,
It's a land of saints. It's a very good people.
oh yeah.
No, actually, we have a lot of Spanish saints in Valencia. Complain that it's dirty. Okay, everyone, so here we have a stone on the floor that talks about the foundation of the city, yes? It's telling you which year. And it says 138 BC, that was the foundation of Valencia, and the name was Valentia, with T, city of the valiant, because this was a city, as I told you before, built for Roman soldiers. Obviously, only important members of the army, not anyone could retire here. So generals and heroes of the wars. And they were actually moving to Valencia, and this was the forum. Normally cities were built in a very similar way. They had a forum. This was the main square where people would gather and talk, debate, went to the market, went to pray, went to the courthouse, the basilica. So basically this was the place where people met, the forum. And more or less it's the same area that we have today. So this is the oldest square of Valencia. There you have the third doorway of the cathedral. This one is very different to the other two. So it's very funny because you don't see a church like this one with 3 doorways, and each one that belong to a very different style. Very, very different, yes? So we are Gothic, Romanesque and Baroque. And also these balconies here, they were actually used by the clergy or the important families of Valencia. Every time there was something going on here. So there would be gatherings, processions, celebrations, maybe the king came to the city or anything that went on in Valencia. So that would be a privileged view. So those ones who had money and wealth and importance, they were actually there, yes, to see what was going on in the square. And that's the basilica. The basilica is a very nice church, and it's one of the 4 basilicas of the city, and is where Valencians pray to the patron saint. We have as the patron saint a Lady of the Forsaken. It's a very strange name. And also we have these cables here. This is because there is the roof, a canopy. You can see on top of the church there's a canopy. Now it's folded up, it's not really used because they can't use it this year. It's damaging the facade across the square. So they've gone to court and they've warned that this year no roof. Big drama in Valencia, no roof in the square. And then they put a roof on the other side and people moaned, oh, it's so ugly. You know. And then that building there, you have the building with the Ukrainian flag. That's the palace of the governor, and that's the office of the president of the region. Because in Spain we have 17 states, 17 regions, and they're called communities. They're not called states or regions, they're called communities. Valencia City is the capital of the community of Valencia, where 5 million people live. And that's the office of the president and where the cabinet meets. And you have the fountain of Neptune there. The fountain, the Neptune is the Roman god of the oceans. And then you have the white and grey building over there. That's the house of Calatrava. Remember the guy who built those fabulous buildings that we saw before? Now we're gonna see it back again. He lives in there. Well, he lives in there only in winter. The rest of the year lives in Zurich, in Switzerland. But in winter, he always comes to Valencia, and that building, the entire building, is his house. Surprising because it's kind of like a boring little building compared to the building. Yeah, but inside maybe it's not that boring. It's got the blinds down, yes. Well, I wish I had a boring house like that. But you know, it's not what you expect to see at the house of Calatrava. You expect to see a very flamboyant and crazy building, ultra modern, and that's a classic building. So let's go down the road, everyone. If you want to take a nice photograph, I would advise you to do so from behind the fountain. You get all the back. Oh, I wouldn't do that. Just leave the back there with it. That's like, oh, I got marked in Valencia. I don't know why. You see people sometimes, you know, a lot of Americans especially, they leave their purse and they say, well, I'm going to the loo, and then just going to the toilet, and they leave everything there. Here you get a nice photograph from this angle.
No, 9. Y el otro que ya está quedado allí.
So we're just outside this building. This is the palace of a family where they are known all over the world. Not the big thing, Borges. Does anyone know the Borges? Yeah? And has anyone seen the Borges? Here? That's the story of this guy in the center, Alexander VI. This was literally the worst pope in history. And if you watch the series, Jeremy Irons is actually the pope, and he does it very well. And it's very good because it's only controlled all over the world actually at one point. And because two members were killed. The first guy who was killed was a guy called Jay. His name was Calixtus III. And then his nephew was Alexander VI. Which, like I said before, one of the worst killed in history.
Swap them two round and make that J into a T.
Children also actually, that version of the
Huh? Swap what then?
That A and J and make that J into a T.
each other, and he got poisoned by another car. But that's it, that is the problem, really, on the 50%. Now, this is how we believe. People think they're from Italy, and I don't really, sometimes, oh yeah, they're from Italy, they're not from Valencia. Because they give us partner life. And there is a very interesting family, if you don't know anything about the family of origin, you should really watch that series because it's really, really very good and how people behave in those days, especially this one, which is category. Today the building is the Valencian Regional Parliament. Now we're going to take the road behind you, we're going to straight to these gates on the back. Nice?
Gracias.
by those gates on the side, because two of them were used to then they became warehouses, and then the one became on the front, which we later. Yeah? That was the only reason why they were there. The other was the school ground. Those places, the idea was being practical, 19th century, of course, it was the museum of the Valencia. So you don't keep a whole building because and that's why many of the gates are still there. So, Valencia was used like any other city. Let's go across the and also you have gargoyles, like in many of the historical buildings in town. These gargoyles were used to sell water. So, up we go. Oh, watch the step here, step on the floor. I've seen a lot of accidents in this little stuff, including myself.
No, I'm glad you said because I didn't see that.
I know, the small ones are the worst ones really, because you don't see them and then it makes you
No problem.
Yeah. I didn't warn people about it. And then I had an accident one time. I was on the floor. Then I had to act normal, like, oh. Here you have this great building, which is very nice. Very interesting medieval fortress, which was part of the defensive system of the city. So you have to imagine that there is a wall going on the front.
People's hats and stuff are blown off in there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I think he's walking past for it.
Is to go inside that museum, the Museum of Fine Arts. And also, another thing that I'd like to point out about Valencia is that it's a very green city. There are 7 trees per each person in Valencia. That's the highest number of any other Spanish city. Of course, having the park in the middle, this huge park, obviously helps to have a huge number of trees. And well, on the right you have the Palace of the Templars Knights. This is the delegation of the central government in the region of Valencia. So the governor lives there. That's the governor. And then on the left you have the Royal Bridge, which used to take you to the Royal Palace. Unfortunately, the royal palace doesn't exist anymore because it was destroyed in the war. Now we have this not very attractive wide block of built apartments, very expensive but not attractive. But back in the old days, that would have been the site of the royal palace. And what we have in Valencia today is the Royal Park, which used to be the park that which surrounded the royal palace. And now we're going to see some of the buildings. We're still in central Valencia, the central part of the city, and we're going to see another one of the gates of Valencia. This is the royal entrance. We'll see this in a few moments. Also, we're going to see a convent, a museum, so interesting buildings that we'll see in a few moments. Right hand side you have a great museum of art. It's the collection of Bankia. It's a very nice building, a nice collection. And on the left you have the convent of Saint Dominic, and next door from the convent we have the headquarters of the Spanish army in the region. And so that's the central offices of the army. And then right in front of us we have the Arc de Triomphe, which is one of the gates of Valencia, one of the 3 surviving gates of the city. Well, this one was built to commemorate the wedding of Philip III, King of Spain, who married here in Valencia at the Cathedral. And he married in 1709. He married here in Valencia, the future King Philip III. And that was the arch built as an entrance for the king to get through. On top of the gate, I'm not sure if you can notice, there is a strange animal. That's a symbol of Valencia, a bat. It's funny because we have as a symbol to this pretty city a horrible animal. Well, I wouldn't say horrible, it's just not very attractive. It's a rat with wings, and it's a bat. It's only because when